Hello everyone and welcome to a base game speed build with VelvettB. That's me. And today we are building Oakenstead and we're doing a modern manor in Oakenstead, so this is going to be a big build. I have divided the speed build into two parts. So the first part will be the exterior and the second part will be the interior, mostly. So I might do a couple of bits and pieces oddly here and there, but that's for the most part what I'm going to be doing today, is the exterior of the modern manor. So I did work with an aspiration on this particular build. I did this a wee while ago, so I actually don't know what the aspiration, sorry, not the aspiration, the inspiration for this build was. I cannot remember. It's probably on my Pinterest somewhere, so I could have a look, but I didn't. Yeah, that's me. But I actually really love how this build came out. When I was doing the tour of it, I was like quite impressed with myself. I was like, oh, this is actually a really attractive build, and it's got a really nice interior as well. I also started the build on Garden Essence. If you're wondering what happened there, I started the build there and then realised it was going to be way too big for that lot, so I moved it to Oakenstead. So it says Garden Essence, but we actually are on the Oakenstead lot. And so I'm just getting the shape of the build happening. So I did use the inspiration for I guess a guide as to how I wanted the build to lay out. So I'm just working on the aesthetics of the outside at the moment, and it is a base game only, so that can be quite a big challenge as far as not so much with the exterior. I think the exterior is quite easy to make modern because you're just building the shape of the house, and I mean you can just sort of do that anyhow you like with whatever pack you like. That's not such a big deal. It's more the inside actually which was harder to make modern, tricky in fact, because there isn't a lot of base game items which are specifically quite modern looking. So I mean there's a few, and it's not like a horror situation or anything like that, but a lot of it is more traditional or classic or basic as far as that goes, and that makes sense because it's the base game, of course. But when you're doing like a build like this one, where you do want to specifically have a modern vibe to it all, it does make it a bit more challenging with the decorating side of things. Anywho, what I'm doing outside is I'm just creating like little roofing sections on the balconies and in the front for the front entrance as well. So kind of like a trellis kind of top with the low fencing. That's kind of what I'm doing there. And that was part of what the aspiration, I keep calling it aspiration, what the inspiration looked like. So, yeah, so I'm going for flat roofs and lots of sort of different shapes around the front, and there's going to be like quite a few balconies, porches, whatever you want to call them, verandas even, whatever you want to call them. There's going to be quite a few of those around the place, so it's going to be like, you know, a good amount of indoor-outdoor living in this one. And I'm using the mega basic columns, I think. And the color palettes that I go for are more white, sort of the light brown, which you can see there with the fencing. And then I do like it's either a black or a dark. I think it's a dark brown. A touch of dark brown and a touch of stone and grey, and like a slightly different sort of darker mid brown as well. Not too much of it, just sort of touches here and there, just to break up the white. But the bulk of the house will be in a white, as you saw at the start of the video when I showed you what we were building and didn't talk about it at all. Yes, I do. So I am actually using platforms for the roofing in this particular build as well. So rather than using the half walls, lower half walls and filling those, yeah. So what I am building there on the side is the garage. I built it and then kind of realized that I wanted to have the house up on foundations, which you'll probably see me do shortly, I think. And then sort of realized that if I was going to have the house on foundations, yeah, there we go, that's me going, oh no, I couldn't have I had to have the garage as a separate unit rather than on the side of the house, otherwise it wouldn't be realistic for the cars to be able to get into the garage. And I mean, I know it's The Sims and it doesn't have to be 100% realistic, but I did want it to be at least a little bit realistic. So, you know, if I'm going to do a garage, it's going to look like the cars are going to be able to get in the garage. So I did have to do that separately. I was trying to work out how to connect the house to the garage, but there's no way because they're different heights because the house is on a foundation. Or if there is a way, let me know. I could not work it out. So, yeah, I was flipping around with that for a little bit, trying to work it out and how I was going to do it, but it was not happening. Not happening. And I'm just putting on the modern roof there. As you can see, I did mention I was going to do platforms for the modern roof. You can see that going in there. The difference between doing the platforms versus the half wall roofs is obviously just with colours, the colour options on the side. That's really the biggest difference. You definitely have a lot more flexibility with the half walls than you do with the platforms because there's such a limit to what colours you have and what options you have with the half walls. With the platforms, but the half walls, anything that you've got for the exterior paints is what you can use on the half walls. So, but I went with platforms. So I don't know what the reason was because I was building it a while ago, but that was what happened. So I'm just putting in the back fencing in the back area, and that's right. There's like at the front there's kind of like it's like a tunnel sort of, you know, like, so there's like a thing at the front, like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a pillar at the front, and then there's like a gap between the pillar and the house, but like there's an overhang as well. So yeah, it's like a little tunnel running through there, and that was in the inspiration. I remember I was like fluffing around with that for a little while, just trying to work out how I could make that work within the build. I mean, it's certainly very possible, but I just wanted to get the aesthetic of it right. So yeah, so I'm just about to fuss around with it. Yeah, here you can see what I'm doing there. So it's coming together, and I'm sort of using a using a bigger wall running up the side, and I'm just fixing up the roofing that goes with it. But you can see there's like a walkway tunnel thing there, so that goes to the balcony running right through. Anyway, back to the fencing that we were talking about. So I just used, it's like quite an expensive base game fencing, but I can't remember the name of it, but it's got like that pretty pattern on it. I quite often use the white fencing. It looks quite modern, so I use that for a lot of my modern builds with base game houses because I like it and it looks like it does the part. So I'm just getting the paint on the outside of the building in whites, and I'm just thinking about what colours are going to go where, I think, at this point. So I think a lot of it's been painted, but then I'm going to repaint in the colours that I want. As I said, the bulk of it will be white, but I will break that up with some light browns particularly, and there's a darker brown that goes around the chimney, and then there's a stone chimney as well going in, because there will be some a fireplace, at least one. And there's like a dark grey stripe going up that wall, which you can sort of see to the side there, and that was part of the inspiration that I did. So you can see the dark brown going in there, and that's actually I'm going to switch that around and reverse what I've done there a little bit later, but I'll talk about that later when that happens. But part of the inspiration had like a dark grey kind of stripe running up on that big sort of wall in the middle of the white, so I thought that looked quite cool. So I'm just working on what I'm going to do with the windows at this point. I'm realizing that I haven't got it quite the right size, so I'm just going to shrink that down a little bit. And this is actually going to be the dining room eventually, that little space there, and that's going to be all sort of windows around the sides, so it's going to be sort of quite light and bright and sunny and pretty. And just extending it so I can do 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 all on the side, and there we go. I finally got the shape right. These things slowly come together as you kind of think about what the rooms are going to be and that sort of thing. One thing I do want to get more conscious of is like doing the windows as part of the exterior rather than as the interior, which I more often do. How do I explain that? Because when I'm building, more often than not, I will do the windows as I'm doing the interior. So that means that the windows aren't always in the best place for the exterior look of the build, and I want to make it sort of more that they are more placed for the exterior look of the build rather than the interior, if that makes sense. Rather than placing the furniture and then placing windows around the furniture, I want to place the windows and then worry about the furniture on the inside later. Oh boy, did that make sense at all? I don't know. But as you can see there, I'm bringing in a little bit of the darker brown, which matches the fencing actually. And you can see sort of the pops of the darker brown, and using that on the trellis work and also as a edge on the top of the buildings. And then we've got some lighter brown around the front of the build there too, and around the back, just to break up the plainness of the white. So at the moment I am going into debug and I'm just finding cars. So that's all I'm doing in debug. I don't think I use any other debug. I don't see why I would for a build where I don't have a budget limit. I kind of only really use debug if I've got a budget limit and I want to make it super pretty, or as you can see here, if I'm doing for cars or if there's something specific that I want from debug, like a fishing hole or something, or the garage doors, which you can see they're going in there with Basegame, because we don't have those DIY mural garage doors that you get with the City Living Pack. I do use the debug garage doors instead. But as you can see there, I had to raise the roof a little bit and make sure that the roof hit the top of the garage thingies, because the garage doors, because they actually, on a low wall, which is what this build has, they do sit at the top. They actually more designed for a medium wall than a low wall. So I'm just fixing up the driveway here and just doing like a little separate driveway with a little plant divider in the middle, just to add a little bit of life and prettiness to it. With the landscaping, I didn't actually really plan that out. There wasn't sort of, I don't know, I can't remember what the inspirations landscaping was like, but looking at what I was doing with the landscaping, I really suspect that there wasn't anything too much to go on, so I was kind of just winging it as far as the landscaping goes. And that's not that's not a thing that I don't. No, hang on. I'm going into a double negative territory there. That's a thing that I probably do quite regularly, is winging it as far as landscaping goes. I don't often pre-plan my landscaping. So if I am pre-planning my landscaping, you'll see me quite often do like the terrain paint before. If you saw my cottage living 4-part series where I do like a huge, well, a 64 by 64 lot, and I built like a huge like working farm type thing. It was a massive build, took me ages. Yeah, anyway, it was a 4-part series, and you can see me, I do a lot of pre-planning as far as the landscaping goes, because I had a pretty clear idea in my head as to how I wanted the landscaping to go. It's quite specific. So yeah, so that's the kind of build where I had planned it out and I terrain painted first. but most of the time you'll see if I don't terrain paint it first, then I am just kind of winging it and seeing what the shape of the build does and the vibe of the build. So with a modern build like this one, I'm going for a more minimalistic style as far as the gardens and stuff go, and not too much in the way of flowers. I'm going to have to adjust that because that's off center. It's going to irritate me, I can guarantee it. I'm about to put some fencing in, and yeah, I'm going to get annoyed by the fact that it is off center. There's like an extra space on that that side of the bushes, so yep, there I go, fixing that. I can't help myself. I know the things that are going to bug me, obviously, because I'm me, and I like looked at that and I was like, oh no, that's going to bug me. It's going to bug me hard. So yeah, things being off center would kind of irritate me a bit. Anywho, what was I saying? I've forgotten. Doesn't matter. I'm sure it wasn't all that important. Oh, landscaping. I was talking about landscaping. That's vaguely important. Yeah, so I didn't do too many flowers. I did do some. I think I stick to like pretty simple flowers as an option. I think that just the hydrangeas in white, and then just like the grasses and rocks and the bushes. So it is pretty plain as far as landscaping goes, but that definitely works with the style of house that it is. And you can see I'm just getting some of the stonework down for the yard and getting the path, and so you can see how the Sims are going to get around their yard and that sort of thing. And I've got like a little section there for the I was going to call it a lamp post. It is not a lamp post, it is a mailbox. And yeah, you can sort of see there that the mailbox has a little space there off by itself, and I will decorate around that, I'm sure, as well. So I'm just working out what I want to do as far as the front yard goes, and pretty sure I don't keep these. I don't remember these in the tour, so I don't know. They're interesting trees. Like, they do have like a modern vibe, but they're also kind of odd. So what I'm working on here is doing some little platform planter boxes. So I'm just looking at putting them they're being tricky. Putting some trees. I don't think I keep those trees. Those aren't going to be what go in the planters. That's terrible. So just putting in the colouring and some bit of dirt in the bottom, and yeah, that makes more sense. The more cypress pine up and down. Pretty. What am I going to say about that? It just kind of a groomed tree. That's what I kind of mean. You know, like a bonsai tree that's been clipped and carefully cared for. Yeah. Anyway. Looks maintained and pristine, and that's the kind of look you want for a modern build, I think. So that's the hydrangeas going in there in the white. So that's going to be basically, I think, the only flower that goes in there. I'm just doing a few more trees around the place, I think, now. Here we go. Just to add a little bit more landscaping there, and also a bit of... Oh, actually, I do use another bushy, flowery bush with white flowers on it as well, just to fill in the smaller gaps around the hydrangeas, and some daisies, just to add a bit more colour in the white sense. I don't know. So just doing a bit of terrain paint there, and sort of giving that more garden vibe, a bit of colour to it, and making it a little bit more realistic. So there we go. So it's coming together nicely. I think we're getting pretty close to finishing up with most of the landscaping. I think we've still got a little bit more to do outside, but I think that might be in the next episode as we get the interior done. And I am just going through and ripping out all the walls that we made while we were building and making the shape of our build. And as you can see, it is 3 stories high, so I'm just going to do a quick floor plan here and get the placement of the stairs down so that we're all ready to go for the interior part of the build in the next episode. So we have 3 floors in this build. So we've got the ground floor, the first floor, and the second floor. I never know which way around to put it. Like, do we call it like the first floor on the bottom, second floor, and then third floor, or ground floor, first floor, second floor? yeah, whatever. I think everyone has sort of a different way of doing it, or maybe everyone does it the same way and I'm just a lunatic. Who knows? So I'm just yeah, working out the floor plan and how that's going to work. So you can sort of see the stairs going in there. Just keep it to like a single set of stairs rather than doing the wider double wide stairs, and I think that's okay. So what we've got on this is the second floor. So what we have on there is, I think, 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms and a lounge area, I think. This is the ground floor. So ground floor we have kitchen and dining, living area. We've got an entrance hall. There's a gym, a large bathroom and a study is what goes on the bottom floor. And yeah, so you remember I talked about how the dining was going to go into that front area. That's all sort of windows and glass, so that this family can sit there and watch the world go by if they please. And so the bathroom will go off the living room off to the left, and then the gym will be on the right side of the back door, and then in the far right corner will be the study, and then you've got the front entrance, the area there as well. So that's going to be the basic layout of the ground floor, and then yeah, the upper levels are just basically they each have a little living space, like a little lounge space for each of the floors. But yes, so the top floor will be 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms and like a small living area. There's a larger area on the second floor, which we're on at the moment. I'm just putting the doors in. And one of the master bedrooms has a walk-in closet. Oh look, we've got some light on the situation. There's a kids room and there's another single room, and then that's the downstairs on the ground floor there. And there we are. I'm just going to put some paint on the garage, and we're just getting to the end of the video. Oh, because I was mucking around, I'm just shoving the gym equipment into the house there while I was looking at things, because I was getting the what's it called, woodworking table for the garage, because I'm going to put in sort of like, you know, your tools and your things that you do in the garage kind of things. So tools and the woodworking table, tables, so there's a bit of clutter around the place. I think I put like a couch in there. If we had a dartboard in Basegame, I would... Do we have a dartboard at all? Huh. I get confused because there's one in the tenants, and I was playing that the other day, and that's why I was thinking about a dartboard in the garage would be awesome. But is there a dartboard in Sims? Tell me in the comments. I can't remember. I've forgotten. Oh, I'm going to be in the Sims tonight. I'm going to be playing some Sims tonight, so I will have a look when I'm in there anyway. But yeah, it's kind of odd if there isn't. You know, that's kind of an obvious thing, isn't it? I could have put the game table in there, but oh well. I think having like a couch in there and have it like a little hangout spot, maybe, you know, you can sit down and have a rest between woodworking and maybe working on the car. I don't know. Alright, so we are getting to the end of the exterior, just doing the last bits of pieces there, some last touches with the doors and the fencing, and just making sure that I have got things in order, I guess is the best way. And I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching. Bye!